to listen to that as well. And I would like to begin by asking my dear brother, Katunji Eric, one of our panelists, the education activist, to tell us how evident is, according to you, the neo-colonialism dependency theory today, and from the educational/economic perspective of our country, how would you say we've been affected? Because you talked about how our education system has been stagnated since the days of independence, since briefly post-independence, the years that preceded. How has that affected us? How has neo-colonialism affected us in that particular regard?
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Could you maybe now this time I just had a few slides. I wanted I maybe I share and
if everyone could direct their attention to the screens, he's going to share maybe something, and then we move on from there.
The question that you ask is in regard to what we know as identity. Identity is one of the most incomplete missions in the decolonization should I say pathway of most African countries. We know that many African countries were able to coordinate flexibly to overcome British, German, and many other European powers that had took them host. And they managed to send them away. They managed to mobilize a local governance system that represents the identity of these people. What they did not do was be able to unlock the mindset and come back to come back to understanding how the society can survive in a changing world. Because now we realize that even with nationalism, you cannot only focus on what is happening within your borders. There are other forces that are outside your borders that will have an impact on the social or cultural aspects of your society. So for those who don't know me, it's Katunji Eric, deeply rooted academically in the field of accounting and finance, business. I am very passionate about sports. That is how I came to education, because I actually realized that intelligence that is in your body, intelligence is not only confined to the mind. Intelligence is as well as very much related to how people can move. We have seen examples of Lionel Messi, Sadio Mane, and how people can think, yeah. So that is my feeling when it comes to education. What I can say today, let me now take the responsibility of breaking down some of the concepts that we shall use to maybe share today. A colony is a country under full or partial political control of another country, typically a distant one, occupied by settlers from that country. Normally, it used to be distant. You see, all the way from England, then Uganda is here. But now we see Russia and its move on Ukraine. What is that? It's coming again. Then now we see the rumors that we are hearing of China towards Taiwan. For Uganda, I already mentioned this. From 1894, we were a colony, to 1962, 68 years. Now, for me, when it comes to education sector, I think of 68 years of an unreviewed education system. Neo-colonialism, I had already talked about that, how we are using operations of international capitalism as a means of direct rule, where there is a dependency, creating a global system of dependency. We adopted a social political system that we do not know how to administer, how to strategize to our own advantage. There are some concepts that we could not ignore. You talked about in our topic today. We talked about cultural and socio-economic welfare. So cultural welfare is the preservation and promotion of society, culture's heritage, including history, language, art, and customs. There is a figure that I lacked time to research, It is about the tourism revenue generation of Korea. Compared to Uganda, Korea has no rivers, no special mountains that demand, should I say, attention, global attention, but they contribute a lot. They have a lot that in terms of their culture, their language, their customs, their movie industry, that they generate much more money than Uganda, that is blessed. Then socio-economic welfare, well, we know it is a community's privilege not to worry about basic needs. You can't worry about your heart problems because the system, the healthcare system around you can take care. The doctors around you can take care of that heart problem, can take care of that brain tumor. I will this in line with the education sector, we talk about the good doctors that we lose to other countries, or our brilliant minds who are dissatisfied and stressed by working in their own home. In the context of colonialism, which is leadership, how do we define education? It is a conscious process designed to change behavior patterns as perceived by the leadership of a society. So with the leadership we have had over 68 years, we have had presidents who have their unique, interesting abilities and capabilities, but who have all expressed intolerance when it comes to releasing power. What is it that they find out up there that makes them so scared to make some moves that guarantee the continuity of society? Now I go deep into into this, and maybe I'm under the assumption that I'm not using more than 10 minutes for this. So far, maybe I'm now half the time. We ha- by exploring this topic of our neo-colonialism and colonialism and its disruption today, we have an opportunity to understand the past, insights of events that shaped Uganda's history, culture, and society, and why we are at the bottom of global ranking in the world today. With our education sector, our first challenge that we lacked people. That is why we see universities were now set up to pump out people with certificates and transcripts. Because we still think, our education system still thinks we're in that time where we lacked people to fill offices and companies. The second challenge concerned a limited tax base. Because government needed taxpayers' money to run its activities, to finance the activities of government. That is why now we're in that transition. That speaks for the transition between 1962 up to at least 1990 or to the year 2000. The third step is where we failed, and which was the third challenge, was the need to give Ugandans the confidence that they were capable of solving their own problems and feel not shy and unequal to the task of sustaining their independence, sustaining their independence. That even when the white man had gone, that we would not need the Englishman to think about how to manage our own lives. This is where I believe we failed. And maybe today, people, you can tell me more about what you think about that. I put there something that, of course, it was all about restraining the mind. Even though the body moved, but when the mind is captive, there's nothing you could totally do. The colonial government implemented policies that favored cash crop production and export-oriented economies, leading to displacement of indigenous populations and the suppression of local economies. The forced labor of indigenous populations and the exploitation of natural resources further contributed to the economic imbalance of the state. There is something I would like to say now. This is not history. Guys, today, this is not a history lecture. Uh, we still have neo-colonial agents working in public service today. Because now the spirit of capitalism came that you're serving an individual, you're not serving society. And that is the mindset, because the definition of an individual, of a unit, to Europeans or the West is an individual. Whereas in African history, the definition of a unit is a collective, is a society. So these are some of the disruptions that maybe we could see. And maybe now we have innovations like the UN. The same person who committed the crime comes to unite us, and now that is another challenge that we see. So uh, maybe I share that to break the ice before maybe I share too much, and now I hear from what people have to say, and then we can go forward.
Okay, thank you so much for that brief insight, Mr. Katunji Eric. I don't know whether it was brief or detailed, but I'm sure if we tickle your mind much more, we shall have an even bigger array of information available to us. But I would like to ask, so according to you, neo-colonialism is just basically mutated colonialism? It's just colonialism just packaged and presented differently. It's not necessarily that when we attained independence, we were completely independent, but we had a different form. It's like saying you don't eat chicken, but then you eat chicken sausages. In a sense, it's some. According to you, is it something like that?
Actually, that sounds more like a statement rather than a question, because that's what exactly it is. If they could not manage their interests from within the borders, they had to innovate ways to manage and control their interests from outside the borders. And maybe if it does not now, at from this point, maybe if someone really has something to say, they can really come in. But it's I had just decided to take a break from that from when I was making that point. You see now, I wanted to be a little bit careful before I talk about an organization like the UN. The United Nations is often considered the largest political global organization with 193 member states. Yeah. Now, it was established in 1945, a war we actually fought in, with the aim of promoting peace, security, and cooperation among its member states. I would like to say that rejuvenating the African identity or Uganda's economic identity is not a priority to the United Nations. And yet, here at home, these are organizations that we look up to for hope, for redemption.
Briefly,
That
Mr. Katunji, just briefly, if you allow me to interrupt you, I see someone has raised their hand. I would like Mr. Mwanga to just give us a small, it could be something about what you're presenting about. He has a small query. Is it okay for me to allow him to ask you something? Because I see you are trying to engage dialogue in its sense, whereby
it's okay.
it's a
It's
back
okay.
and forth engagement rather than a marathon and then queries later. So, Mr. Mwanga, if you could be so kind as to unmute and ask your question. I see you have your hand up. Mr. Mwanga, are you there?
Hello. Yes,
Please,
good
Mr.
afternoon.
Mwanga, we can get you.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back into the new year. It's my first one for this year. Listening to the previous speaker, I was challenging self, and I want to extend that challenge to the rest of colleagues in here. Yes, we are talking about colonialism and all that independence, and we oftentimes tackle it in the political or educational sense. But I would also want us to extend it to the personal kind of perspective. How many of us are operating independently? Or are we actually living, behaving, acting as a consequence of the colonialism that was there? I'm imagining if we had a Muzungu, a white, on call, and they came up with an opinion on the same topic, and let's say one or two of us had a different opinion, how many of us would just drop our opinion just because the Muzungu has spoken? Yeah. And I think also this translates to many other things. Somebody comes up with a wonderful maybe medical innovation, But if it is not appreciated by Muzungu, if there's no Muzungu to second it, they somehow think it is an inferior opinion or innovation. So that is when the discussion started. That is what came to mind. I don't know what colleagues have to say about that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Mwanga Nelson. For him, according to him, we have an identity crisis thanks to the colonial mindset that was instilled within us. And I think I've witnessed this myself firsthand. I remember being somewhere, we were having fun somewhere at a rugby club, and there was a group of white people there. So we went to buy ourselves some drinks, and the person at the counter, we had been there for about 10 minutes, and as soon as the white people came to buy, he opted to skip us and allow them to buy first. So a friend of mine lashed out at him and told him, "We've been here first. Why is it that you're serving the white people first? Are you being racist in our own country?" So, Mr. Katunji, I don't know whether you can expand on that as well, like what he was talking about, what Mr. Mwanga was talking about.
Yeah, his question is trying to now really individualize the issue of mindset change. In the past slide, I remember saying that this was the third transition. We came from a place of very few skilled people, but then we built schools and pumped them out. Then we came to a level of trying to generate some tax base for government. We have something now, but we didn't do number three. Number three was about uh, changing the mindset change, bringing back identity. And sometimes, how do you do that? Through simple things like speeches, culture. We can talk about now, should I say, the depreciation of practices like music, dance, and drama at primary school. We are here watching Hollywood all the time, but if you ask an American or Englishman to show you their traditional dance, uh, you can shoot them dead. They will have nothing to show you. So imagine we had a developed, if we had an African-led civilization and Hollywood was in Uganda, and instead of Game of Thrones, we would produce a series alongside the story, a real story of Jipil and Labong, a story between two tribes and two brothers that drives up to the current history, Idi Amin and Milton Obote, showing the rivalry from the story of a bead and a spear. How failing to keep your word and losing trust between two tribes can be detrimental to the future. Imagine how much value that would be, that would impact maybe to the world as a storyline compared to a fictional story like Game of Thrones. This is how far much we have lost our identity. That if I put on I would prefer Netflix than to watch a recently produced Ugandan movie because of its quality, because I have been tamed. And you see, I do not need to be within your border to control how you think. I can create systems now, like the internet, that actually do control the ways that we think. Moderator, I see other hands. I don't know how you want to handle them. I can maybe go on, but if you want them to come in now, I can pause a bit.
I think let's allow Mr. Mjisha Paul to ask what he's asking briefly, and then we allow you to continue.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's so kind. My name is Paul Mugisha, and this is my first time to be in this platform, but it really well aligns with my beliefs and my systems. I want to give a little bit of uh, a narrative on what the speaker is just from presenting about culture and the way we take things. Much as we have colonialism to blame, but we need to be very careful and strike a balance between something we attribute to colonialism, and then something we attribute to excellency. If we have a restaurant in town and it's owned by a white person, and this white person keeps his word, when you go there, you know that when he's serving you soup, it is the exact soup as he's saying on the ingredient. And you have a neighbor who is a Ugandan and is having the same restaurant, and you know that when he says he's serving you a goat soup, he's in actions giving you sheep. You will find that the bits of reality they are differentiate. I'm saying this to say this. If you see this, if you see how some of these things are structured, for example, like in the entertainment industry, if you see the quality of work they put in, the quality of time, quality of training, quality of the money they pump in a thing like a music video or a movie, or in a movie industry, and what comes out, you will find that it is well researched, well thought through, and someone is going to look at it not because he has a preconceived idea or not because he has been affected by colonialism or whatever, but it is quality, you know. And this kind of so you find that we have two videos here, nice story, but one has been well thought through, a lot of money put in it, and something well designed, and the other one, resources are limited and something which is not super quality is produced, you know, and then you find people are seeing things differently. So if we cannot, if we won't address this, we'll end up becoming like how you see South Africa. We reach a point
Mugisha,
where
I don't mean to interrupt you, but the moderator has a question for you. Mr. Katunji, you raised a hand and I see you raised a question in the in-call comments. Could you address it to him such that, you two can engage that particular direction before we
Yeah,
proceed?
yeah, Mr. Mugisa, based on the comment you're making now, and you really have a point. I wanted to know, are you a nationalist? Are you a globalist? Or are you undecided?
I am a nationalist who is a realist. Actually, I am. At some point later in this discussion, I will really explain how colonialism has so much affected our agriculture, because that's my area of expertise. Yeah,
Okay,
but
then I have an answer for what you are saying.
okay,
Yeah,
please.
okay. So,
Yeah, I think
Miss,
let me separate from here. Yeah.
let me allow the moderator to proceed. He says he has an answer for you. Maybe we shall hear from him in regards to that. Thank you. Proceed, Mr. Katunji.
Yeah, the reason why I asked to know why Mr. if Mugisha is a nationalist or globalist is for a globalist, you're more diverse. You're not your affiliation to a state is much less than your affiliation to the development of the world. There are people who think that way. Uh, then a nationalist, okay, there's that element of patriotism and community and history and should I say that sentimentalism, yeah, towards the community in which you originate. Now, if you're a nationalist, you have to, based on the example of the restaurant you gave, this white man who gives very excellent services, you are guaranteed of hygiene and quality. Then there is this other person who is not doing things. The nationalistic thinker in this case will say that let me ensure that this black person is able to surpass. If there is coffee being produced in Brazil, and currently we are testing very excellent Brazilian coffee, the Minister of Agriculture here should sit down and say, no, We have proven before that we can be the best in the world. I want our coffee to be the one. So we have been hungry. We have been deprived of that opportunity to have a leadership who we trust has the hunger to go ahead and take on these kinds of ambitions on the global stage. That currently, in the way that the world is running now, with our existential threats in agriculture, in technological disruption, we know how now artificial intelligence has risen, and we have no role we are playing in it. There is now a threat in nuclear war that some countries hold leverage over others because they have nuclear bombs. We are in no position there. Then we have climate change. We are the good boy in class. We are not cutting down trees, but the Go Green campaign, 60% of the Go Green global campaign is in Africa. Is in we are the ones who are required to plant the trees and protect the animals. Yet it is the other countries that are doing this. So the nationalistic thinker has to want Mbarara City or Onduparaka to have more global viewership than Manchester United or Real Madrid. And that is the whole point of how do we sustain our competitiveness. And maybe I just continue a little bit. Other relevancies of why we have come today is that we now know the importance of cultural preservation. We now know the importance of now not having economic self-sufficiency. Knowing that the Ugandan shilling, now I'm an accountant, it would be a crime if I did not make a comment on this. Actually, okay, I see Mr. Anthony's comment. That the Uganda shilling is still backed by the dollar, even though we try to break free now and say that we have now a crypto innovated by a Ugandan, owned by the government, that the Ugandan government would prefer to transact in. I don't know if we would have the strength to sustain such a backlash. Maybe the economic consequences of making such a decision, even at presidential level. Those are the ties that we are still prisoned to. Yeah. So maybe I conclude talking about teaching. Now, we all know the relevance by the consequences of having another person in charge of how we do things, of how we live our life, is that it disrupted the ability of one generation transmitting original information from the young to the adults, maybe for our social benefit. And now the reason why even education remains essential is to maybe understand, yeah, like generally understand how which skills we need to leverage in order to protect our global position, the nationalistic thinker's perspective, and the general purpose of indigenous education. Maybe, and I also conclude from this point, and maybe allow other people to come in, maybe on the slide after the next. Yeah, is that each Ugandan tribe before the introduction of Western education was to enable each member of society to be helpful to him or herself, to his or her family, and to the rest of the members of society and to the state. Now, an example is boys and girls of a tribe were taught history of their tribe, were taught where their grandfathers came before settling where they were. Generally, it was knowledge that was relevant to their current situation. A boy was taught how to build a house, how to use a spear, how to make a bow and arrow, how to defend himself, his family, his tribe. He was taught how to raise cattle, goats, sheep, chicken, helped him to produce milk, meat for himself. Right now, if I sampled people in this chat that are able to build their own house or maybe make a weapon that they can use to defend themselves, right now, the generation of today, maybe Eric and Warren and Anthony, will have to pay someone out of their salary to build a house. Now, this is some of the depreciation of the human quality that we see in adopting an education system that is based in class. The girls, They were taught how to produce food, cook food, nurse children, and look after a home. Now, these were some of the things that we lost to build on to. And looking at where the next, should I say, global revolution is coming to, which is Africa, we are not yet even prepared to supply the world in terms of its food demand. Neither do we have the technology, neither do we own the logistical infrastructure to execute such a strategy. Yeah. Maybe where I conclude is maybe questions to you guys. How do we measure globally on the foundational skills of reading, speaking, writing, listening, thinking, body exercise, which is sports? Maybe bodies like the National Planning Authority, ever since 1962, where have we been? The Education Ministry, National Curriculum Development Center, in the context of maybe our instructional design. And what, considering the current technological disruption, nuclear war, and should I say technological disruption, which is artificial intelligence and the development of biotechnology, with that in consideration, where other countries are clearly ahead, what education model do we adapt? Some thinkers have developed an adaptive framework for reforming African education systems. The thought is not complete, but what do you think? We have heard of elements and educational instructional designs like STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. Will that work? Well, maybe I leave it up to you guys. Most at this stage, it kind of creates much more questions than answers. So for me, that is my submission, my maybe icebreaker for today. I could stop there for now.
Okay, Mr. Katunji, thank you for that presentation. I will have a few questions for you, which I'll ask subsequently as we go on with the presentation. Mr. Katumwesji Anthony, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, I'd like once again to welcome you to this platform. Thank you again ever so much for always being with us and sharing us your mind and your insight on particular or various topics that we always share here. I'd like to know what you think about what neo-colonialism has done to our culture. What according to you, you can give us a general thought of yours about neo-colonialism as an umbrella thought, but then I'd like you to later on, if you can, focus on the cultural bit. Has it been eroded? Has it been crippled? Is it at the risk or on the verge of being wiped away or done away with completely? What do you think?
So, I hope you guys will be patient with me because this is a really good topic and I don't think I have the best information, but I have something that if you pay attention, you will understand where we are in this matrix of the world, or let me call it like in this global system that we are. So I want to first answer the guy who asked the question that maybe it is within the quality demands and quality compliance of how we do the work and how other people, foreign people, do the work. Well, yes, you are right. You might ask those questions, but I want you to remember that the global system that you're working in now, that you're trying to play nice and develop, is designed to fail you, and it's designed to make you hate yourself as an African and as a Black person. That is why no other continent in this world is subdivided like Africa. You understand that? Which other continent in this world do you know that is as divided as Africa? You find a person in Rwanda cannot work in good terms with a person in Uganda because of those stupid borders. Yet when you go on the border, Bafumbira and Banyarwanda speak the same thing. Banyamurenge and some tribes bordering, they speak the same thing. Kenya and the Ugandans, Turkanans in the north, they speak the same thing, but we are divided. Why? Because that's the colonial system that was left behind. Let me explain it to you to the extent that you will be able to now do not look at yourself, but look at yourself as as an equation, as one stick, and you have to know that you have your part that you play in this. So Uganda got independence in 1962. The education system that was there to teach you how to speak English, communication, basically, not to run a government. That's the education system you are left with. Well, not only that, remember how the colonial system had divided Uganda. The people in the north, the dark-skinned people, the tall ones, were the ones running the army and enforcing the laws. Baganda, the ones who struck the 1900 agreement, were the ones who are administrators to collect taxes. And us, the rest, were supposed to be paying taxes, growing coffee and tea for the colonialists. You understand? You understand the equation where your culture plays in, where you come from, and what role you are in the global system. So you are seen as a source of raw materials, nothing more than that. You think beyond that, then they have to do something to make sure that you remain there. So look, ask yourself, why does that happen? It happens like this. What happens is that right now, you get the best educated student in Makerere, and you get the best educated students in any of these schools. You will not be better than them when it comes to jobs and everything. But you take the two of you into learning something new, both of you from two different worlds, you'll be better than them. You understand? So the system, it's not that you have a problem, you as a person. It's just that the system that you are thriving in is meant and was designed to leave you down. Let me explain further. Let's look at what they call neo-colonialism. The key instruments of neo-colonialism are 4: United Nations, World Trading Organization, IMF, and WTO. IMF, International Monetary Fund. How many countries in the world, when they are going to the World Bank to lend money, are subjected to the things that we are subjected to? Conditions from the EU, conditions from everywhere. The Americans, even like last week, they're exposing it how they use the IMF to control nations. You either implement or do not pass the bill against LGBTQ, or else we are not funding, or whatever. So you understand the extent that we are in neo-colonialism when you have such instances. When you deal with China, then they again come, oh, China is debt trapping you, China is doing this, China is doing this. Why? Because China is doing the opposite that they wanted to do. China might not be the best. I don't think China is good at all, because they are all imperialistic in their mentalities. Neither is Russia the best, but those are the two people whom you can negotiate and get a better deal in this world full of demons. I would say that. So let me now cool it down so we understand how imperialism and neo-colonialism are the same. So the first thing, when we were given independence, we were enrolled into United Nations. We enrolled willingly into administrative purposes of doing stuff and all of that. But right now, where imperialism comes in is that even us as a people, our opinions are not respected, even at the highest level of representation, like United Nations. If you doubt that, remember what happened in Libya, when African Union sent their delegation and told them, we are Africans and we shall solve our problems together as Africa. And they refused. They went in, they bombed the whole place. Now we have slave trade again in Libya. And all these people are not accountable. The French, the Americans, how many of them have you had come up and stop that mistreatment of black people in Libya? None of them. You understand? So that is neo-colonialism. When our opinions in our own nations are not respected. Look at what happened when in 2000, was it 2015, when the parliament passed an anti-gay bill, and what happened, you remember? It was nullified based on quorum, low quorum. Look at what has happened in Ghana when Ghana introduced an LGBTQ say no gay bill, whatever they called it. That's what the Western world uses. You know what they did? They threatened them. And Ghana, the reason why Ghana is the most thriving democracy in Africa is because its people are educated. They have the right education system. They are the best in analytics. They are the best in econometrics, because they understood that the system that they left them was not meant to benefit them, and they overhauled everything. So now, where does imperialism play? So imperialism plays here. We know KFC is not the best. It's not the best foods that young people eat. Even Pizza Hut has the worst pizza, the meals. We know the people in Wandegea who have better chicken than KFC. If you disagree with me, feel free to raise your hand. So now, where does imperialism work and neocolonialism? So KFC has access to a mass of money. So it can come and operate in Uganda and outcompete all these local industries in terms of quality and service. So my brother, the one who's complaining about quality and service, do you know how much money KFC has access to? KFC can even fund the Ugandan government for even 2 years without it needing to work anymore. So now these guys have unrestricted access to money. And yet, because in the so-called name of WTO, World Trading Organization, we agreed to liberalize our economy. That means we have to treat all goods that are sold on the domestic market equal, like how goods that are manufactured in the domestic market. So that means chicken sold by KFC should be treated the same way as chicken sold in Wandegea. So now it goes to individualization of each business. It means the business with the best financial power is going to be able to outlive and create many distribution centers within the country. So neocolonialism comes as an element of making sure that we remain on the tentacles and hooks of the Europeans and the other so-called world leaders. The other thing, you look at our culture. First of all, I don't agree that we had the best cultures, but neither do I think that our cultures were so worse off that they need to be erased, and even our languages, we cannot even learn in our own languages. When you go to Europe, they don't speak English, all of them. The Germans speak German. The French speak French. The Finnish speak Finnish. You understand? The Czech speak Czech. You understand? So when you go to Africa, you have English-speaking nations and Francophones, and maybe Portuguese. Why? Because one of the things they brought in the disguise of civilization, they need to civilize you. That means if you speak more languages than your native languages, you are civilized. So that is why you see they can easily dump their products to you. They show you that dressing up as a Maasai, you are someone who's primitive. But if you dress a tie and a suit, you're someone who's what? Who's educated and well-learned. They also put this element of how do you control people? You control people through controlling information, what they see, what they read, how they see themselves. So they make you feel like black as a color is bad. But in the real sense, there's no color in this world. There's no, I don't want to say something related to race, but all I'm saying is there's no color that is as beautiful as black. Most of them admire it. They know they can't have it. That's why they are always like that. But that's not the issue. So the issue here is that we have had, like in Uganda, in 1986, when this government came into power, what happened was they had around 5 million Ugandan shillings. They had a low tax base. They had low administrators. They were low on almost everything. So they put a mechanism which, remember the mechanism that they are thriving in, the country they are trying to put back on the roll, is the country that is divided in the northern people, western people, central people. We are divided based on our tribes. So all the systems that were put in were not the right systems. We put in systems, or the government developed systems that are just to repair what is there and continue moving. They didn't want to shut down, because what they should have done is to overhaul everything. You understand? Create a new currency, create a new value system for the currency, create a new land tenure system, create a new, abolish all tribes and all of that. Do something that unifies and makes us unique as Ugandans. You are Ugandan if you speak this language. If we drop, let's say, Swahili and be like we have to all speak Swahili, that's what we wanted, something to unify us. But they did. The president, what he did was like, you either work with me or we are going to keep like that. You understand? We're going to keep fighting each other. But what he did was he sold one point, peace. And everyone was pro-peace, because the other years, from the years of Idi Amin and the years of Mutesa and Obote fighting, there was no peace in Uganda. You understand? The one thing that the economy that you have now, that you're controlling yourself, is because of Idi Amin. He's not the best leader we can talk about, but he is a leader who protected the economy of Uganda. The consequences were too much. But at least the revamping that economy came after Amin was gone, and revamping that economy has been done by Ugandans. The only problem is that the issue of ethics. Our system is not encouraging a lot to care about ethics as a nation. That's where we lose. But then I'm going to come back still. I want to take one point and drive it, and take another one and home. So
if you're to allow me briefly, Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
Is neo-colonialism or colonialism inherent variably bad? They are not.
Ask again, I didn't hear your last point.
Neo-colonialism, is it inherent bad? Is it invariably bad?
No.
There are none that we have derived from it, because according to the way you're speaking, it's like saying we had the perfection, we just needed to identify it.
No, it is not. It is not that you had the perfection. You had nothing, man. You had nothing. So it's just that you are a king who was ignorant about your kingdom. You understand? So you are brainwashed to know that you have nothing and you cannot thrive without the British, and that's why they created the World Trading Organization. It means that if you make any mistake to go against what the imperialists want, they will isolate you and make you trade alone. You understand? So it is they knew what you had, but they want it for themselves. They want to keep you in check, that they use resources. Imagine they give funds in forms of dollars and euros. Let me ask you, what do we give back? We give back gold, minerals. You understand? Those do not depreciate. Gold does not depreciate, but every year the dollar they give you loses around 3% of its value. The euro they give you loses around 5% of its value. You understand? So now, when you go to, when you travel and see these nations, they have no culture, no nothing. You understand? So when Eric talked about the Green Revolution, you look at people in Uganda, that's what I was asking. Why the fuck should we Ugandans be the ones to install wind and solar? Yet we account, as Africa, we account less than 3% of emissions in the world. We've accounted even lower than that. These guys have been the ones polluting the world. But why are they pushing us to be the ones to do that? That's neo-colonialism. If you don't do that, you are not receiving funding. But the funding they give is paper money for the minerals that you have. Then they are okay with you having bad education systems, because if you're not educated and well knowledgeable, well, to them it works for them. They will still come as saviors. That's why you have a lot of non-government organizations working in Uganda. Some of them, if you look at the stories of the recruitment centers in LGBT, they were funded by non-government organizations. You understand? Read the news. You will see how things are connecting. Then Ask yourself, how many leaders have been assassinated because they are working for their people? You know, Thomas Sankara, we all know what he had done for the people in his country. He had already, his country was self-reliant in terms of food. People had started, Eric, I will allow you. You can say something if you want. Just ask if you want before I continue on this. Because of Nkwame Nkrumah, you know him. We know a lot of people.
Yes, Anthony.
So it is more of Eric, I will wait for you.
Okay, I wanted to know from you, in your perspective, what do you have heard of ChatGPT? Now, currently, there is now a functional artificial intelligence, a text-based artificial intelligence running in the world today.
Yes.
We have not contributed in any way, and it's going to have a huge change to how human communities operate.
Well,
where do you see the survival
no,
of?
let me tell you something.
My question is not complete.
Sorry.
How do you see the survival of now from a nationalistic standpoint of Ugandan communities, our 56 tribes? What do we need to do? What does now, with the current changes, does our community look like 100 years from now if we are taking the right steps? Where are we excelling?
So what I'm saying is that we are headed for disaster because we're not taking the right steps. We are making many wrong mistakes. You understand? The first mistake that we are making is that we are not seeing that the people we need most are our neighbors. We need to trade more with our partners because we have a lot of things in common with them. We eat almost the same food. We speak almost the same language. We have the same problems. You understand? So it's much easier to transact with them than having most of our industries aiming to export to Europe. The global world is producing for Europe. China is producing for Europe. US is producing for Europe. Or even India, Pakistan, all those nations are producing for Europe. Why are we producing for Europe? Yet to produce products for Europe, their quality compliance is quite higher. You understand? If you have to take food, it has to be this. If you have to take pineapples, they have to be this size. If you have to take watermelons, they have to be not more than this size. If you have to take bananas, they have to be this size and this type. You know, why are we? I don't even understand. Why are we fighting to trade with Europe? Me, I think the best thing that we can trade with is our neighbors. You understand? In DRC Congo, Rwanda, Southern Sudan, Somalia, those are all Botswana, you understand? Those are all countries that we can trade with. Tanzania. East Africa itself, Uganda can play a huge role in agriculture. The reason why Uganda was tricked, that's why I'm telling you. They knew in 1986 when the president came into power, they knew that Uganda has a lot of potential to feed Europe and feed other countries. But they didn't teach you how to utilize your land. You understand? That's why they kept quiet and left. Because they know if our president knew the only way to develop agriculture in Uganda was to at least build assembly plants for tractors in Uganda, he would have already done it by now, to the extent that tractors should be owned by government. And each district level should have at least 2 tractors, farming tractors, when all the farmer needs is to pay a small subsidy in terms of taxes. You understand? In terms of taxes, and he gets his land at least 1 tillage. You understand? 1 plowing. So that can improve agriculture. It can make us a superpower. And we don't need to produce things for Europe. We need to produce things for Africa. We can produce things for other countries in the other world. You understand? They are easier to produce and they require less money, less time, and less stringent rules in terms of compliance and all of that. But we are not doing that. So what are we doing? We are looking at oil as our savior. Oil is not going to be a savior if we still have systems that operate on one individual. I know that's the systems we have, but the question you have to ask yourself is, why is that individual deciding to mutilate all other systems and all systems to work on him, because there was no other way. There was no other way for him to operate, because we can see how neo-colonialism has worked. The way we are borrowing, we with resources are borrowing paper money that loses value. And when you have people like Kwame Nkrumah and this guy Thomas Sankara who speak out, they are killed. Understand? So that is in Africa. What you should know: if a leader works for African people, not for the Europeans and the foreign agents, he's going to die. They cannot survive. They have to strike deals with them. You know, right now, if you think that United Nations cares more about Africa or anything, ask yourself. If you think the Europeans care about Africa, why don't they? They know what France is doing. France has over 7 countries who cannot control their currency. All central banks, all the money collected in those currencies in their country is kept in France, their central banks. Controlled by France. Their currency is controlled by France. Why? And these countries are suffering with the highest level of poverty. They have kids who cannot go to school. You understand? They have kids who are dying of hunger every day. And then you hear United Nations and blah, blah, all these World Trading Organizations that they care about Africa. How? They should start with France. You understand? If they care about Africa, they should tell France to let go of people's money and central bank currencies so that they control it themselves. You understand? But because they have that imperial mind, they think they own Africa. They think Africa, the people in Africa are just like, they don't think. That's what the motive behind LGBTQ and Hollywood. They think if they show you these things more, they display them to you, like every day show you LGBTQ, that a man is kissing a man, that you'll accept it. They think that that's what they do. They forget that Africa, our knowledge passes from head to head. The amount of information I know is because of my grandfather. Sat down, explained everything. That's how knowledge has always been passing down, because you couldn't write anything. When you write it, they would ban it. You understand? The colonialists, they would ban it. So what was the best way? It was storytelling. That's why they used to tell you stories, because they knew that's how the African spirit doesn't die. You understand? So what you need to understand in this neo-colonialism and all of that, why don't you look at this Ukraine war? When there were the United States and the Britain, if you don't support Ukraine, blah, 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 blah. You know what happened? You know how many countries in Africa have been coerced to vote against Russia? Yet most African nations want to be out of it. They want to be neutral. You understand? No one wants that war. But you know why they do that? It's because they don't respect you. You are nothing to them. You're just a source of raw materials. But they forget. They forget that they think they know everything, but they don't. We are Africans. They might see us as Africans, but we have a different spirit. The connection between us is different. And not until they acknowledge that and they start respecting people in terms of we shall keep fighting each other. We are not going to settle. But for them, they are happy. Now imagine these countries in Burkina Faso, or these francophones that are suffering. They don't know. A French citizen, a kid, when they reach 17, they're allowed to get how can I call it? Their school scholarship programs, and they are also allowed to have the government gives them benefits in terms of like loans. 0%. 0%. Imagine you get 50,000 euros as a loan. You enjoy your life, you study, but imagine what you have to go through at the university. At the university, this person is enjoying life, doing whatever they want. They are not facing any stress. For you, you don't know what to eat, and still you have to cram that bullshit that you have in the book that tells you that the economics of man and woman, that it's a patriarchy, that man has always seen woman as less of them. But you have to know that African tradition has always protected women. You understand? It has always protected women because they are the busway. There's no culture. I've never seen any culture in Africa that says mistreat a woman. In fact, the African traditions, we have women who have privileges, a lot of privileges, because it is us men who carry the burden, and men don't complain about that. Pay dowry price. When you pay dowry price, it's a token of appreciation from the girl's side and her family for what they went through. You know, these things are simple things, but they depict a lot of things. They depict a lot of things of unseriousness. When you talk about neo-colonialism, look at what everyone wants. Let's look at what they are pushing in Uganda. The reason why we have all these issues is because it seems like the only one person who knows the dangers of having these Europeans and these people deep within us. It's not that we think that they are danger. Yes, there are some of them who are dangerous, who is not good for us. But what I'm saying is that people do not understand the danger of trusting these people. You understand? You don't need to trust them. You can work with them, but keep your distance. So it means that the energy industry in Uganda, the Ministry of Energy, trusting that solar and wind will be able to solve the energy deficit in Uganda. It's because they are not reading outside the box. The model that has always developed every nation has always been on cheap electricity. And the cheapest form of electricity is nuclear electricity. You understand? Why aren't they encouraging the government to do that? Why aren't they developing nuclear programs? We don't want nuclear for weapons. We can own nuclear plants and they manage them, but we don't trust them. If you manage them and you exploit them yourself, you understand? So what I'm saying, you have to understand that if you are looking at Instagram, the most beautiful ladies that they show you that are cute couples, they are less black. You understand? But that's wrong, you know.
Mr. Anthony, you're going to.
So I'm going to show you how neo-colonialism works. I'm going to show you how it comes within our systems. So when you see these things,
I'm going to try to summarize it a bit.
No, I'm trying to summarize it. You know, these are my first 30 minutes to talk, so I'm just nailing it and finishing it. So look, the element that comes out of it is that you have a lot of people who are confused. Government is confused. These people are confused. No one knows the right way that we are taking. You want to get Uganda out of the track of neo-colonialism? Yes. First, do not look at Europe as the solution of your problems. Look at yourself as a country. And know, what do we want? We want to trade. Where do we trade? We don't trade in Europe. Trade in Africa. Open trade routes. Encourage more connectivity of rail systems and cheap systems. Then you cannot have those systems without cheap energy. So do not assume that bringing someone from Britain or Europe is what is going to solve the problems of Africa. The problems of Africa and problems of our country can be solved by us. But the extent of which that neo-colonialism comes in is that you have to know how it comes in. Me, one of the principle, your guy principle, me from the day one, I opposed the principle, because principle is just an element, is just an ambassador of other people's interests. We don't want that. Do not elect a leader who does not have Uganda at heart. And being Uganda doesn't mean you have to be a Munyankole or anything. No. So that is the divisionism that we need to fight. But we need to know, why are we fighting it? We are fighting it to get better education. We are fighting it to produce better working conditions and living conditions for our people. But we can't do that when everything is like everything that is not moving well. We are all running to the United Nations. United Nations has been in DRC Congo for almost 22 years now. What has it done? More people are dying, you understand? And yet there are reports that show that they are looting themselves. So you see, then you also need to understand, they also need to understand the way we are trading. Some organizations like WTO, you understand? Those are very unfair. We cannot trade. That means we don't have to liberalize our economy, close our economy, strengthen infant industries, because they are the source of foreign exchange, and they are also source of jobs. You understand? So how would you develop when people who are farming rice in Uganda have to compete with rice from Pakistan? Understand? You don't like yourself. So that's why I'm saying that we need to get out of, we need to trade with one another. They need to let us be. Africa as a trade bloc should trade more, and more companies in Uganda and other companies should aim at serving those markets. Everyone who's in Uganda who has a business want to serve the European market. That's fucked up, you know? We're not going anywhere with that. So the truth is there and it is known, but there's a problem of Ugandans wanting a quick success. It's not possible, man. Look at China. China was being in the 90s, it was always looked at as the weak men of Asia. But those guys have proven to be a muscle for the whole world. You know, the Chinese education system, yes, it is good. But do you know what they cared more about? It's not about individuals. Understand? They enabled individuals to have skills. After individuals having skills, government created institutions that can put these skills to work. When they started producing and having jobs, having industries producing for other countries and many things, that's how they developed. In Uganda, just by infrastructure development, if we decide to build connection hubs for countries like DRC, countries like Southern Sudan, countries like Somalia, if we just build transfer stations only using rail, you know how much money we can get? We get a lot of money because these things need to be run by people, the services. Understand? They need electricity. They need people who can load and offload, but not only people, they need machines. You know, these things, that's when you are on track of the right track of development. But right now, why isn't it neo-colonialism? Why isn't it neo-colonialism that us, to be able to build those flyovers, we had to go to China? Because the US and the IMF was used to say you have violation of human rights. So that's where neo-colonialism comes in even stronger. Someone in Europe knows the human rights that Ugandans deserve, and he can, you being there, it doesn't matter whether you're happy or not happy, he will tell you, you are being violated, your rights are violated. You, even if you are like, yes, he will tell you that, yeah, you are brainwashed, you are violated. You know, I think you've seen that happening already. So, Ronnie, you can ask something, then I end.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon to you.
Submission. However, mine was just to also equally submit. We appreciate your submission. It's been rather a huge one. There are a few things to comment on and contradict about. For example, saying Uganda has an issue whereby we are trying to run so fast and we're trying to achieve everything so fast, like having a shortcut in quotes, I could say. However, Uganda as a nation is lacking leadership. That is one of our challenges and problems that we're having, and this is best evident if you look at our neighbors who have gotten patriotic leadership. For example, Tanzania, which was previously under Magufuli, RIP. If you look at our neighbor here, Rwanda, if you look at Kenya, when you look at all these neighbors that have been having peace for a period of time, relatively compared to ours, we're in the same bracket, but they're moving so fast, whereas we are reluctant. We've brought up proper suggestions and proposals, such as the standard gauge railway to connect the whole of East African region. It was our proposal. It was launched in Speakers of Monyenyo. Beautiful party, beautiful people, beautiful event. And when you look at all our neighbors, they already kicked off the project. Some of them already finished the project, but ours that been swindling money so many attempts. They're budgeting for the money being swindled. Infrastructure development is really lacking because we have an issue of we lack patriotism amongst our leaders, and there are no systems to curb or restrain people from being corrupt and taking all the things that are supposed to be meant for the wider public good. So I don't think it's really Uganda trying to run so fast and have a shortcut, but rather we are lacking leadership. We are lacking leadership.
I have one reply for you, Ronnie. Now I want you to listen to me. Let us look at all of these nations that you're talking about. Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda. What do they have in common? They are united. They speak one language. In Rwanda, they speak Kinyarwanda, maybe Swahili. In Tanzania, they speak Swahili. Kenya, they speak Swahili. Those are the people who are running fast. Then let's look at the wars they've had. The country that we shouldn't even be including in this list is Rwanda, 1994. The genocide. That was a huge cost of labor, of people, brains, lives, and everything. So let's put it out. We are not going to compare ourselves with Rwanda. How about Tanzania? When was the last time Tanzania had a war? You know what happens in a war? Men die, women are killed, children are raped, you know, all of that. When was the last time Kenya had a war? You understand? So we have, you Uganda, you are doing much better. That's why I told you, you're doing much better than what you should be doing. Because remember, since 1962, you've been fighting. Mwanga was killing, Obote was killing, then Idi Amin killed. You understand? All these are the one leader that I think had some senses is Obote. He's the one who loved Uganda somehow. So the others, it was about tyranny. They were all tyrannical forces. So the one thing that you lacked in Uganda to develop was peace. And there's no country that can develop without peace. So accept it. You hate the dictator who's there now. Yes, even me, I hate him with all my life. But you have to know, he's the only one person who has kept Uganda in rags together and peaceful. I don't mean peaceful because the peace you've enjoyed now in Uganda, total peace, comes like 1999 or when Kony was sent out of the country. Please feel free to say what you want to say, Ronnie. But I need you to make it short so that I finish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite on the contrary. When you look back to our history, which war are you talking about in Tanzania and which war are you talking about in Kenya?
No, I'm saying they didn't have wars. They didn't have anything. Wars. Yes.
All right.
And we've been having wars for a great amount of time of our independence. You know that.
No, when you look at our history,
yes.
Given the fact that we had independence in 1962, leave alone that, yes. We had a series, when we had the independence in 1962, we had a series of takeovers and everything, that because we just grabbed power from the colonial master who handed over to the Uganda kingdom.
Yes.
And then so many other people were interested in the power and everything happened.
You know what? No, Ronnie. By your own words,
quite on the contrary, when you speak of peace, Uganda, we got under this regime. That's around 1986, where we got peace, and then Rwanda has the genocide around 1994, 1995. Right?
1994, that's when they stabilized in terms of like, that's when the RPF took over power.
Exactly. I would really feel that you're not being real to yourself if you say that Rwanda under Kagame has drastically moved in terms of development, honestly speaking, given the time period.
Ronnie, I don't need you to be emotional here now. I want you to listen to me carefully. No, listen to me carefully. I want you to listen to me carefully. Ronnie, I've explained it to you in this simple sense like this. All the countries that you're talking about, we have variables. You understand? We have variants. You cannot say that development is only by peace. You understand? There is also unity. Those countries are more unified than us.
But that means you're being kind of ambiguous because your basis was on peace.
No. I mean,
you said
peace.
Look. You paused and said peace.
Come on, Ronnie, may I explain?
But now when you're going, it cannot be peace. So that means you're being
Ronnie,
ambiguous.
Ronnie, it looks like you are listening, you're picking something different. I said, one of the things that we can use to analyze the differences in these countries is simple. Let's look at peace, because there's nothing you can do without peace. That is meant as there. So then development also needs what they call unity. That is there as well as a variable. It is not that Rwanda or Kenya is developing because it is not unified. No, it is unified. And one of the things that unify them is because they speak a common language. You understand? So that means someone in the northern part of their country can communicate to someone in the south. If I go to the northern part of Uganda and I don't know English, do you know what would happen? I wouldn't speak that. Even if I want to do business. These are simple things. You know them, but you ignore them because you are charged to think that everything is about democracy. Now let's talk about democracy that you're talking about. Singapore, the country that everyone says Uganda was like Singapore in 1986 or 19 blah blah or 19 years. You know what happened? Who developed Singapore? A dictator. You know what he did? He abolished all kingdoms and he built a system that works as a transit way through. So because Singapore is well situated, you understand? So these things are there. Development is not that the same thing that works in China is the same thing that works in Uganda. It's about people choosing things that have many tools that have been used somewhere else and they've worked and are being used here. You pick out which tools suit your situation. So tell me, a country like Uganda, we have many tribes, we have many differences. I don't think there's any nationality in Africa that is not in Uganda. The Nigerians are around, the Ghanaians are around, the DRC Congo people are around. So how do you unify all of us? Or you think that they don't matter? Well, they do matter. They contribute, even if it is 5%, they contribute that to the economy. So you have to understand this, Ronnie. Uganda is not like a wheelbarrow that one day you wake up and put it in one direction. You understand? So how do we use, thank you, Mjisha Paul. How do we use our diversity? Because people do not know why you dividing a nation in terms of tribes and whatever what it can do. You understand? If you wanted change, why didn't the Ankole people decide to vote President Museveni? You know, it is because there's trauma. There's trauma of something going wrong. This is the only thing they have that has gone right in a long time. I mean, it's not right. It's not like it's the best. No, it's much better than the 1960s and 70s to them. That's why they are like, instead of going for someone who's so hungry for change that he has no plan for change, it's not the same as having that's where they bring riddles like the devil you know is better than the angel you don't know. So we are not going to argue about that, Ronnie. If you disagree that peace is not paramount and unity is paramount.
No, I think you rather got me out of context.
No, because let me answering what you say. I'm answering what you say.
My issue was Uganda as a nation, honestly, for a fact, whether you like it or you don't like it, we lack leadership.
Yo, let me tell you something. Ronnie, I don't care. I don't disagree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I don't care who comes in power. I don't care who does what. I don't care which political party.
I don't disagree with you,
but
Ronnie.
For a fact is we lack leadership.
Ronnie, I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm trying to say.
No, the way you're sounding,
all I'm
like
saying
you're saying maybe I'm
how are leaders modeled? How are leaders?
I'm not leaning to any political affiliation.
No, I don't care whether you are affiliated anywhere.
From your submission, it sounded like you got me out of context. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay, look at this, Ronnie. Leaders are nurtured by societies. You understand? To be a strong leader, there must be conditions that set you apart.
But brother, I honestly want to say this.
Yes.
You rather hear to respond, but you do not listen to argue out for everyone to benefit. Like
Ronnie.
you're literally sounding like you're only patient to only respond. You're so thirsty to respond than pick out the real issue. Because we've even gone out of context. We've moved from neo-colonialism and we are moving all around different things that are not really reflecting back on the topic of the day, you know?
Ronnie, I am sorry you feel like that. But all I know is that these things are connected. They are not the same.
Yeah, but then remember we're discussing
yes, so we need, if
the
we are
impact
to
of
flash out,
neo-colonialism.
to flash out of the problem, we need to start on, you want to know how neo-colonialism affects us? Then let's look at the leadership that you're talking about. How are leaders raised? Leaders are raised from the environments they grow in, you understand? So which our environment has been able to produce a tyrant who has been able to keep the country
together. I may say something on that, Anthony.
Yes. No, wait. Let me first give Ronnie Ronnie.
If I may say something, on that, I could help you respond on that. Yeah.
Katunji, one minute. Okay. 1 minute only. Right. So let me explain this to Katunji. So sorry, to Ronnie. The thing is as simple as this. You want a good world? Yes. I've already told you it's designed for you to hate yourself. You are comparing yourself to other countries. You're not looking at yourself and knowing where you have failed. You have failed to nurture leaders. How? Because of the system that is there. Yes, but does that mean that is entirely the reason to blame of not having leaders? No, let's look at ourselves. Let's look at the one person whom we thought or other people thought that would lead the country or would take over power. What happened? What happened was simple. It was violence. You understand? And no, in Uganda, because of our history of wars and everything, you can never come in the name of violence and people give you the power. That's why Bessigem and your principle have failed. It's the only thing they've failed. Is the leadership that we have good? No. And do we want it? No. But what does it mean then? Does it mean that we just throw everything, the little that is there, we throw it away and bring in something we don't know? Well, I disagree with that. Even if you can agree with me, I don't care on that. But what I mean is that Uganda is a delicate country. Do not compare it to Rwanda. Do not compare it to Tanzania. The differences and the division among the Ugandans are quite very huge compared to the differences in these countries. You understand? They've moved past a certain level because they managed to unify themselves through the same language and through abolishing these differences in terms of tribes, religions, and all of that. But we have all of that playing within ourselves.
My argument was,
yes,
our neighbors and brothers and sisters, there are those things that they've done and they seem to be moving. How about we learn from them? I'm not talking about any political party. I'm not talking about any affiliation.
No, look at them.
I'm saying we could pick something good from them and maybe try to move in that direction. Maybe it could help. That's what I was trying to say.
Yes, that's what.
Especially in terms of
Mr. Anthony, I'm going to ask that Mr. Anthony give his conclusion.
Okay, my conclusion is like this.
We appreciate the back and forth dialogue you've given us today, but we're being caught up by time. I'm going to ask that you give us your conclusion, and then maybe Eric can give us his submission. Okay. We can look towards closing.
So now, me, what I want to say is simple. Actually, I like that Ronnie asks these things because to me, they differentiate if anyone is confused. So look, the reason why we cannot compare ourselves with a country like Rwanda or a country like Tanzania and Kenya, we don't have the same things in terms of we are a heterogeneous nation with many differences, tribes, religions, and beliefs and all of that. You need something better and bigger to unify us. And most leaders that come are always concentrating on how divided we are. You understand? They're saying Central should vote whatever it votes, North should vote whatever it not. Right now, the best leader and the best solution to this, to be able to understand this, is because it is someone who needs a unified country. But the best way to me, I think the best way of avoiding this mess that we are in as a country is through East African unity, East African Commission. You understand? There we are much more. We don't look at ourselves as Ugandans. We look at ourselves as East Africans. When you look at yourself as East African, you're not going to battle with someone in Uganda. Maybe you'll be battling with people in Kenya, but it's much different from how we are killing ourselves within. But overall, neo-colonialism, yes, neo-colonialism exists and it's not going to end unless Africa and states in Africa decided to make decisions on their own. One of the countries that makes a lot of strong and harsh decisions is Rwanda, but it's also on tentacles of somewhere, you know? So we can't say that it's entirely independent. So neocolonialism stops when people educate themselves and start studying themselves as specimen and looking at things that develop them as a community. In Uganda, what do we need? We need quality hospitals, quality transport systems. We don't need to speak the English of Europeans. That's what one of my English teachers used to beat me because I refused to give an accent of the Briton. But if such actions stop and we start speaking our languages proudly and accepting that we have a role to play in this global universe, we shall not be bullied. If we are trading, let's protect our local infant industries and let us trade with our neighbors. Let us trade because we have a lot. It is much cheaper economically to transport goods from where we produce them to where we need them to be sold, and it takes a little money to advertise what we are producing. If you take bananas in DRC Congo, there are high chances they know them. It's not the same as when you take bananas, the same bananas that we eat in Europe. Some communities don't know them. They think they're yellow bananas. You understand? So the reason why we should concentrate more on trading with neighbors is because we spend less when trading with them, and we travel less when trading with them, and we have little differences. So it means if we cannot develop on our own, if we cannot develop without neighbors, let us not go somewhere far. Let's start with the neighborhood. Create strong supply chains that are ruled by Ugandans, you understand, are run by Ugandans as well. Then after creating those supply chains, then you can have administration and improve education, you understand? So let us not look at ourselves and over-imagine ourselves and like think that we have everything. We don't have everything. We've just started having people being educated. In Uganda right now, the literacy level is around 46%. You understand? How about 53%? That's a lot. You understand? So it's a lot. But so what I'm saying is that we are on the right path, but we are using the wrong tools and we are aiming wrongly. You are on the path that you are on. It is right that you are doing that, but you are aiming in the wrong way. So it means we are going to miss either way. So the best way is to re-strategize, aim again, and look at something that works for Uganda and our neighbors, which is East Africa. If you want to produce for East Africa, let us see how to increase the energy production in Uganda, and let us increase the transport systems and connect networks around Uganda to our neighbors, and you'll see we shall flourish as a country. But let us not think that the best way to develop is to start thinking like we are like China and AI. No, AI, we should reject it. We should not allow AI to be able to even correct any data and be connected to any data systems of Uganda. Understand? So because that's data theft, and they know that we have these things, they will program us more than we do. So let us do that. For now, I will have to let Eric say something. Then I think my take on that is that's what I have managed to give you today.
Okay, Mr. Anthony, thank you so much for that input today, and to Mr. Ronnie as well. I thank you for challenging this man. He loves challenge, so I appreciate you for that, and thank you for giving us a vibrant dialogue. Mr. Katunji, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anthony. Then Ronnie, who also came in and made it interesting. I've been watching the comments. Mr. Nyakana talking about maybe our local markets and their ability to maybe give entrepreneurs the economic fulfillment that they need. Interesting thoughts. Interesting thoughts. I can, of course, now it's a chance to give my concluding remarks. There was a point when leadership was being spoken about. I had attempted to come in, but then the conversation was a bit it was a bit heated. It worries me that we now have a very big portion of politicians who have given up on the sense that there is a world outside us, a world outside the borders of Uganda, that is making us that we actually that the reality that we are a very low ranking economy in terms of development is not a reality that is hitting them properly. I don't know, maybe we should have a program, and I'm serious, that every time there's a parliament session, maybe an organization or NGO should organize a dinner for MPs. There's a good chance there's a good chunk of ministers. Talk about history. Talk about this Ugandan history. Talk about these 68 years in under the British rule. For them, they're even much older. Their generations have much more organic knowledge. It is very important that we have legislators. Maybe that is the only way it becomes practical, because I've been really trying to think of where is the win. But regardless of the education level of most of our legislators, is that if they are sensitized about where as a country, where we have come from, the urgency and priority in some of these matters of how much we have lost in terms of knowledge, in terms of tradition, in terms of practice, that it is so much so that while making the decisions, and maybe some of them catch up now, maybe some of them don't, while making decisions, they are in the know that they are supposed to, that they're representing a very interests of a certain group. Are we willing to pay the price? Are willing to pay the price? The vision of Ugandan-led civilization, I think, is a very costly one. When we're looking at it from Africa, how many people got behind Gaddafi when he talked about the vision of the African Union? Immediately, identity came in, influenced by the Western powers, for us to call him a Muslim and say that once you work with Gaddafi, you're working with the Arabs. Yet Libya is right here on the same continent. The man had the money, he had the finances to be able to drive the vision for a united Africa. However, religion was propaganda that was externally manufactured, disrupted that movement. Do you know how many years it's going to take again for there to be another attempt to unite African states? The only mobilized group that I have had so far is the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, which is also an opposition party in South Africa that is on the borderline on reclaiming land from maybe the white occupants in South Africa. Maybe that, especially that was taken from the residents. So it is only that big political organization that is very vocal about what we have lost in terms of African identity. It's because I wonder why, even though there is things like Black Lives Matter, why blacks don't visit Africa. They go in vacations in Europe and they go to Asia, they go to those islands, Fiji. They don't come to Nigeria, they don't come to Uganda to have holiday to see maybe where did most of their maybe ancestors come from. Yeah,
I
for
told
me,
you that the system is designed for you to hate yourself. That's what it is. Those are the products it has. It makes
so
Africa is designed, is marketed as a place of suffering, as a place with no water. So what the immediate thing you speak that you come from Africa, they think you've come from these villages without hospitals, without anything. You have worms all over you. So they assume the moral high ground of being like, we know better, we have better than this, we do things better.
yeah,
So,
I'm a
yes.
supporter of Manchester United. What are the chances that Eric Bailey, okay, he's now on loan, but he's somebody I really like. Okay, now for him, he's already African. Let me see. Patrice Evra is French based. What are the chances that maybe comes to Africa on holiday, or maybe the Americans, what are the chances that they come to Africa on holiday? The fact that many people globally have put their hands down on this conversation is a worry. Yeah, it is a worry. It is a worry, and because the price is it's big to pay. But imagine with 59 tribes and their history, imagine the excellence we would have in the entertainment industry, the production of movies, music, any form of the cultural diversity that African states have, and in terms of its heritage, that we are not thinking of maximizing that as an economic advantage. So, well, that is that. My feelings today, I talked about the education sector. Well, the skill sets we need to employ that, and I believe that is it, moderator, for me.
Okay, Mr. Eric. I see Ronnie has a hand up, and I think Mr. Mbisho as well had put his hand up. I'm going to give you each 1 minute to address us, and then we can close the meeting. Starting with you, Mr. Mjisha Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. I just have 3 points that I'll need to add on from what my colleagues have said. The biggest thing we need to look at is how do we overcome neo-colonialism? Number one, some wise man said that to change the whole world, you need to begin by changing yourself. What areas do we have as a community, as Ugandans, that we need to work on? Why would an entrepreneur begin a business and go to look for Kenyans to become managers? Kenyans are fellow Africans. So how do we work on that, and to make sure that at least what the Kenyans are bringing on board, that strong point, we can also work on it. I was told of a story of Singapore where the gentleman in leadership at that point stopped people from spitting on the street, just spitting, because tourists were being nagged by that thing. And by people stopping to spit, it made the tourism sector boost. Same as Rwanda, there are some those small things you can that that the Rwandan government has done at an individual level. Things like littering, things like putting on shoes, as simple as putting on nice shoes when you're going to town, you know. So if we can work on that, we will find that we are overcoming bigger challenges which the people who are giving us colonialism are running on to keep us in bondage. Number two, the right education will give us the right leaders. If you find that our education system is messed up from primary, just know those 7 years, 8 years, 9-year kids, by the time they grow up to 20 years, will be messed up children. We accuse leaders that we have of corruption, but I'm sure if most of us are given an opportunity to go in those offices, the first thing we'll do is nepotism, corruption, just like them. Why? The same system. So I like the title of this talk. If we don't work on education system, that we make it free from neo-colonialism and specific to solve our problems, we will not get it right. The last point, Africans and Ugandans in particular, we have zeal for things. When we look at, when we put our mind into something, we do it. We can get this from the way we are zealous for things like religion, things like football. I had people, Arsenal and Man U fans fighting, almost killing each other. You know, we have heard how people fight for each other, fight for their religion to the point of, killing each other. How about we find a way how we can channel this zeal into things that matter? Zeal like fighting corruption, zeal like, fighting this injustice in society. I like how people come against and gang against things like GMOs, gang against things like homosexuality and LGBTQ thing. So how do we get that zeal, and we channel it for the things that matter, the right leadership, the right medicine, the right health sector, the right education, the right way of life. If we do that, I'm telling you, we'll become unstoppable, and no leader will try to bring their neo-colonialism on a country like Uganda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mujisha Paul. Mr. Ronnie, briefly, please try to hurry up. Give us your input, and then we can close.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. First of all, it's quite unfair that the time has been allocated poorly, I must say. However, I had a lot to say, but I'm going to summarize it briefly. Like briefly, I'm going to just peruse through, and then I go back to what I think would be the way forward. So for starters, I'll start with the business context, like the previous speaker was saying. That when it comes to business, when you see countries such as Kenya and the UAE, they have a policy. In the UAE, 80% of the company ownership, all of them must be locals. Whether they have a degree or they don't have a degree, it doesn't matter. But 80% as a rule. If you don't have 80%, they're sorry, your company cannot operate. When it comes to Kenya, it runs between a third to 60% of the people on your board must be Kenyans. Whether they have a degree or they don't have a degree, you cannot open up a company. When it comes to Uganda, whoever comes, China, Asia, Korea, whatever, just do your thing. So that is also lacking in the kind of business perspective. That is to answer the entrepreneur bit about it. Then I go to the major key points I wanted to go through, but I'm going to just break them off. Neo-colonialism has had an impact right now in the agriculture sector, which is impacting us, our country and Africa as a whole. For example, right now they're bringing in GMOs and developing food in the laboratories, which have impact on our genetics and our bodies. And it's very bad, and our governments are letting these things slide, which is very bad because maybe they're getting some cookies. I don't know why they're letting those GMOs come into our agriculture. So because they're bad they're bad for our soil and our lands, and they're bad for our genetics and the human body intake over a long period of time. Then neo-colonialism using the tool of media. Media is a very big tool. For example, we've grown up watching their movies, music, and all that, and most of them are lies, 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 lies. It's not exactly what it is, but it's the picture and the consumption they've wanted us to take in. It's the picture they painted for us to take in. They've made us believe their language is beautiful and good, and if you know it, you're intelligent, which is false, 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 false. I admire countries such as India, Pakistan, Korea, China, all the other Asian countries. They remain true to themselves, and they remain with their norms and beliefs. Our history was robbed, taken away. We are confused in Africa. African population is a very confused population. We took up the religions we don't even know about. The Asian people remained with their beliefs and norms, and they are rich in their history and what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They've evolved over time from the local things their ancestors were producing and had implemented. For example, gone are the times our ancestors would touch the ground and he would know it's going to rain. It's a season for this. He would touch the ground and know this is the direction I'm supposed to take. We would have developed tools if our history was not robbed and if we're not confused with the white man's language and ways. We would have developed our own local tools, which would have been more advanced. Right now, we don't even know how to use the compasses. We don't know how to use the thermometers because you have to follow what the white man is using. They took us off from that thing. You see, like Eric was submitting, they used to teach us how to hunt, how to tell the weather, how to tell the direction. Back from rich from our history, we had our gods, and they came to tell us our gods are evil gods, they're evil spirits, they're black gods. Then they gave us their white god, and then we all lost track. So we are very confused population in Africa. We pray too much, and we pray too much. Yes, I'm a believer. There's a higher spiritual being, but somewhere something is not wrong. It's not right because I believe they've used religion also as a tool. They've used media as a tool. They've used money as a tool. Double standards where they're saying UN is coming in to help, but it's raping people in the Congo. These things are going on. We have so many bastard children who don't have their fathers, none of their parents in the DRC and Mali and other countries where the UN has been put, but then nobody's caring. Also, double standards in that when a president is not supporting their thing, he's bad. But when he's supporting their thing, he's good. That is for it goes for Kofi Annan, the late. It goes for Nelson Mandela, who I believe he was also mispainted. It goes for Robert Mugabe, who was a true patriot, but then because he stood for African values and he was a Pan-Africanist, he was painted a bad image. What else? it goes also to Uganda, where they're saying they're fighting for human rights, human rights, human rights. But behind the closed doors, USA is giving UPDF training and arming them with equipment, but then it's coming to fight for human rights. Yet it's seeing all the atrocities happening, but it's just because there are deals closed behind closed doors. All those are impacts of neo-colonialism. It comes down to I'm trying to trying to rush through. So yeah, our education system is rubbish, rubbish, rubbish. It must go. The language must go. I assent and accept the initiative of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the current president of Uganda, him trying to establish an East African region. It's a good initiative. I also applaud him for that. I believe we should try to go back to creating our own local language, which is Kiswahili. Everyone speaks Kiswahili. People in DRC speak Kiswahili. Ugandans, a few speak Kiswahili. Percentage speaks Kiswahili. Zanzibar, Kenya, Tanzania, we speak Kiswahili. I believe we should look for a language to unify us as we all go back to our grassroots. We should invest in research, our own local research, and try to do things, because we're not going to continue depending on the white man. It's good we invest in research, get the resources, we invest in our research. We should try to source back and trace back our history and roots, where we came from. We should demand for our history that was stolen from us and robbed from us, because it's from that history that we're going to know the truth. And I believe I also believe in integrate. We should also source for strategic partnership, whereby you can partner with Russia or Korea with no strings attached, because we have the resources, we have the natural resources. We can train our local people, and we can source out for strategic partnership, long alliances, and strategic relationships, which can benefit us without having strings attached, because we have so much worthy in our lands. If you're going to be patriotic and pan-Africanist, we can use it to develop our nation and the continent at large. And then I believe in integrated infrastructure development, where we can come together as an East African region to work together, develop a network, develop, let me say, a cattle system, develop a boiler system, develop different things. Then we should also participate in skilling of our young generation. We should not also think that big carpentry is bad. We should not think plumbing is bad. We should not think like such things about. We should let our younger generation discover, because we have so many talented youths, but that we let all that go to waste, and we waste time in the classroom studying useless things like River Tennessee, British Columbia. Like, these guys don't even know anything to do with our country. They even think Africa is a country. They don't know anything about Africa. And then you spend all your life studying about British Columbia, River Tennessee way. You're learning how to speak as a white man and all that. And all this is making us get lost. Solutions is to go back to unify ourselves through integrated infrastructure, unify the language, invest in research. We should demand and trace back our history and grassroots. We should also source for strategic alliance and partnership. Thank you. That's my submission. I've tried to summarize.
And indeed, you have tried to summarize that very rich submission. I'm now going to officially close, but I'm going to request that those of you that want to continue with the discussion, it's open, because I see you and Anthony still had a lot to discuss or to talk about. I'm going to ask the host to stop recording, and then we can continue. And please, Mr. Ronnie, could you type your number in the chat? I'd like to have a word with you about our next dialogue. The next dialogue is next Friday. We're going to talk about social media and how it has influenced us as a nation and the youth, and how it has been detrimental to our mental health, our psychology, all these things. So I would maybe like you to be part of this. So thank you so much for those of you that have attended, for those of you that have made submissions. Unfortunately, our third panelist was unable to make it. He apologizes. I think he will be able to join us next time. Otherwise, thank you so much, and a good afternoon to you.